Karibu, karibu, welcome everyone. We're excited to have all of you here with us today. Karibuni, karibuni. Karibu, karibu, welcome everyone. Awesome. Thank you, Zivo, for that beautiful beat. Once again, welcome everyone. We are very excited to have you with us here today. And we are very happy that you're curious about Metis, you're curious about the Metis Fellowship, and you would like to learn more about the fellowship and what Metis is all about. We are here to share with you and help you understand the role that we play and how you can become part of this family of ours and work towards transformation of education in Kenya. To get us started off, I will just review our objectives for today, why we are here, and then we'll jump right into the session and get to hear from our alumni. They have beautiful stories that they will tell us. And then we'll spend the rest of the session just, answering your questions, addressing all those concerns that you have. And then hopefully after the session, you'll be ready to click send on that application. I know, you have been saving somewhere. So yeah, without further ado, let me share my screen so that we can view the objectives of today. So today, we are here because we want to learn more about Metis. This is your session. It's for you to ask questions, to learn about the fellowship experience and what it means to be part of this family. So one of our core objectives today is to learn more about the Metis Fellowship experience, to hear straight from the Metis Fellowship alumni and ask questions about the fellowship and the application process. So those are our three objectives for today. Maybe someone can do a recap of that in our chat, and I'll be able to read that. Awesome. So the next step, I have some of my team members from Metis here and our alumni. So for the Metis team, when I call your name, just wave to our audience, and my co-hosts or alumni hosts, I'll give you a chance to just introduce yourself briefly and share what you do and why you're here today. So for our team, we have Eric Nzivo, who is our tech lead for today. Eric, can you wave to everyone? And then we have Boniface, who is our storytelling lead. So Nzivo is our learning and evaluation lead and our tech lead for today. Then Boniface is our storytelling lead and also our tech support for today. Boniface with. Then we have Nelson, who is our event and community lead here at Metis. Then Josephine, who is our operations manager. Yay, she's wearing the Metis t-shirts. Should have borrowed that. And then last but not least, we have Rebecca Crook, who is our executive director here at Metis. Okay, now to our alumni, the people that will be sharing with us the experience today. Carol, I'll tap you to go first. So tell us your name, what you do, and why you're here today.
Thank you so much. for welcoming me. My name is Carol Owala, and I'm the executive director and co-founder of an education organization called Big Picture Learning Kenya. So in a nutshell, we put students at the center of their learning. We link them to mentors. We support them through advisories in their school. They're a small, school team that supports them. And then we also assess them through exhibition, which is, something Ruth and I have been talking a lot about. So I'm really happy to be here and share my experience, but also learn from, the Cohort 5 fellows. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, you guys are our next cohort. So definitely, yeah, we're excited to hear from you also. Ruth?
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ruth Mugambi.
Sorry, Ruth, you went on mute.
I went on mute. Sorry about that. Let
It's
me
okay.
pick up from there. Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ruth Mugambi. I work for Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. I'm actually the Deputy Director in charge of secondary education. And my role is to develop curriculum support materials, especially now during these curriculum reforms. That is what I'm in the center of doing. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Albert?
All right, yeah, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to all our participants who are joining us today. As you've heard, my name is Albert Nation, and I am the founder of the Slum Code Group, where we work with young people, and our core programs involves, ouch, okay, sorry about that, Ambrose Jero, maybe somebody needs to mute them.
Yeah, please,
hello.
yeah, I forgot to say that also. If you're not, until we get to the Q&A session, please remain muted so that we Albert, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, so I can continue now. All right. Yeah, so thank you so much, and sorry about that. Those are Zoom issues. So as I was saying, my name is Albert Nation and founder at the Slum Code Group, an organization that is based in Nairobi, actually a social enterprise that helps young people within low-income communities to walk into an easily accessible safe space and find their talent, purpose, and passion at the earliest possible stage. So very happy to be here as a Metis Cohort 4 fellow, and excited to walk this journey with us all. So pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for sharing. Yeah, as Albert has said, yeah, he actually just completed his fellowship last year in December, and we celebrated that. Yeah, also Ruth and Carol, they were in cohort 3 and they didn't get to graduate because of how 2020 was, when they finished, but they got to graduate together. So yeah, maybe they get a chance to share that experience and how it was, in a very challenging year. So just to do a brief intro of who we are as an organization. So Metis is a non-profit organization that focuses on supporting local education leaders to transform education in Kenya, right? So we emphasize support of local leaders because we believe that the solutions to our greatest problem, starting with education, of course, but extending even to others because whatever we learn, we can apply even to other contexts. It's because we know that the people that are closest to the problems are the people that are best positioned to actually develop solutions to these problems. All we do is sort of create an environment where we can bring together these leaders and give them the tools, give them the networks, and give them the resources that they need to go out and become the innovators that they were meant to be, right? Design solutions that would really, or that are really transforming education in Kenya. So that's what Metis does. And one of our core thing is, collaboration. That is one of our key thing. And yeah, I don't want to preempt anything, but our alumni have a chance to share more, about their experience through the fellowship. But yeah, so for those that, I saw some questions that came in earlier asking what is Metis, what do you guys do? So that's what we do. We support Kenyan education leaders to transform education. And as we go through the event, you'll get to hear more about how we actually get to do that. All right. So next, I would like to invite our alumni to share one or two favorite memories from their fellowship experience. So I know it was an exciting journey for you, but yeah, pick one or two that you feel, for me, this was my best moments during the fellowship, and share that story with the people that are on this call today. Would like to go first? Maybe Carol?
Yeah, sure. Thank you again for the opportunity. I'm just thinking about my journey with Metis. So I applied for the Metis scholarship when I was really busy. My organization had just started. I wanted to leave and fundraise, and I was just like, oh, will I really manage? And so for me, the most memorable, learning experience was, I have two, but I'll share one. The learning retreat that we went to. I just didn't know how much I needed that. So I remember, when we were doing the learning retreat, one of the things that we did that I would really love to do sometime, maybe in the near future, was to sit by the fire and just share our hopes and dreams and some of the visions that we had as educators. And I just realized how much we, at Metis, we used to say we are in this together. We can do hard things together. Having a group of educators who think the same but also differently was just, it was just amazing. That was my greatest learning experience.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, so I know we had a lot of activities during the retreat, and yeah, you have highlighted one of them. So the bonfire, you get to sit around a fireplace at night, and get to share our stories and get to be vulnerable, and get to share the journeys that we've taken, because it's the stories that we go, it's our journeys that make us, and they help build the people that we become. And sharing that with others actually, get to inspire each other and realize that you're not the only crazy person, because we say, like, if you have those crazy ideas, we welcome you, because we know that those are the ideas that are going to change the world. So thank you so much for sharing that. Albert, what was yours, one or two?
All right. Yeah, so thank you so much, Naftali and Carol, for sharing out that. I know for me, the first thing that I really have to say, that Metis is the first fellowship that got me both excited and included in. I had done several other things, but when Metis came my way, the fact that I was accepted into that fellowship already tricked me. I was like, wow, this is amazing, to go and be part of a team of like-minded people whom we can share ideas with, and in a specific direction, something that is very much related to what I do. So when we are looking about the tracks of skills and education tracks, I know for me that was really amazing. So yes, the retreat was an amazing part, but one thing, just to know that I was part of the Metis way, that has changed my life, whereby every single day I will keep on looking about the M, E, T, I, and S. And I know probably we'll talk about that, but picking on E, E is one thing that really changed how I worked with my people, because it made me believe in them more. It made me give them a chance to trust their own selves. And up to today, it is working so well, because I gave my team an opportunity to do things, and you should be able to know what they are doing. So yeah, for me, the Metis way is definitely my way. Excited about it and looking forward to share more.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So actually, Albert, like, I'm so happy, like, because I know you shared this with me last year, and I've been talking to one of your guys, your program manager. And yeah, he's really stepped up. And, you know, I know he talked a couple of days ago and it was like, now Albert is all hands off. I don't know, like, you know, stepping back and allowing, you know, us to actually also become part of the innovation process. And I'm so happy that, you know, you got to, you know, practice that here and actually go and deliver that in your organization. And it's having, you know, the impact that it's having today. Ruth?
Okay, thank you. I think the process, there are very many memorable times that we had. I don't want to talk about the gifts that we got, the mugs, anyway, it's not about that. But I think for me, one of the great things that I'll always remember is the fact that it opened my scoping, knowing that the diverse, different people who are very active in education in Kenya, in diverse ways, using innovative ways of trying to empower our learners and also the youth in very different ways. And that exposure to the different people, even the visits we had in the different offices, the graduates of the alumni in their offices and seeing what they're doing, really I think that really impacted me and also broadened my thought in thinking of the different things that one can do in the area of education and empowering our learners in the schools, despite their diversity in terms of their social, economic, even physical, because we had quite a number of people working on learners with special needs. So that bringing that group together for one cause, I think is a great thing that the Metis community is doing. So I think for me that was one of the areas that I felt I would mention today.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. As I said, collaboration is a huge part of what we do because we know each of us individually can't work for systems change, you know. And, you know, hearing someone like Ruth, who is in government and in a position to actually do something, say, you know, I also came here and I actually get a new perspective on things. And it's super encouraging even for me as someone who is working and doing my best to actually support you as leaders and make sure that those dreams of yours, you know, come to life. So Albert highlighted something about the Metis way. I would go very deep, but I would like to share just a few things on how the fellowship is organized and, you know, the steps that you go through for the duration of the fellowship, that is for the 6 months, and, you know, emerge at the other end. So I'll share my screen. So the Metis way, it's a design thinking way of doing things. And when I say things in this context, I mean designing education solutions, right? So when you come into the fellowship, the first thing, which is something Carol mentioned, that you do is actually go for a retreat, right? So there's a weekend where you get to spend time with other leaders within the cohort and get to actually make those, we call them lifelong connections, because those 3 days, there are a lot of things that I've seen emerge from those 3 days. There are a lot of collaborations that I've seen emerge from those 3 days. And I hope, you know, our alumni will get a chance to share more about that. But that's where the fellowship starts. So once you get admitted to the fellowship, you start with the retreat. And that actually marks the first step of the Metis way. So Metis actually means local contextualized knowledge, but also it's an abbreviation for our curriculum, which is a core part of the fellowship. So our curriculum is a design thinking curriculum for innovation in education that equips our leaders to be able to think of how they actually design solutions that work for their end users. How do you, for instance, if you want to start a school that really makes a difference, how do you go about designing that and making sure that you're not going back to the very same things that have been happening before, but are you actually innovating and creating something that really centers the learners or the people that you're trying to design for? The next component of the fellowship is communities of learning. So Ruth mentioned having to go to offices or some, doing site visit and visiting these other innovations that we know like we can learn a lot from. So that bit of the fellowship is what we call the communities of learning, because we come together. So initially we used to do this in person, but of course we have had to reimagine these because of COVID, and also as we try and scale, because we can't ask you from joining us from Garissa or you joining us from Kitale to travel every month. But what we do now is we go out, interview the leaders from these innovations, do a proper site visit, and then avail that to you in form of video that you can watch and actually learn from. The third component of the fellowship is coaching, which is sort of mentorship. So we connect you to mentors. So some of these actually alumni will be your mentors once you join the next cohort. And also we have other leaders within our network that we connect you with so that they can help you as you decide your solution or as you work through your bold idea, which is something we're going to talk about next. And the last part is connections. So to these two sources of talent and capital. So even after you leave the fellowship, I saw a question on what happens after you leave the fellowship. We continue supporting you, and our alumni community is really growing, and they share a lot of opportunities, both for funding, to recruit people, and other opportunities even to be a guest speaker in other events. So that's how the fellowship is organized. We have those 4 components: our design thinking curriculum for innovation, our communities of learning, coaching, and connections to sources of capital and talent. So for this upcoming cohort, we are actually recruiting along these 4 tracks. And this is what it means when we say we are recruiting along these 4 tracks. So for every leader, and I'm happy that we'll be talking about this next, when you develop your bold idea, which is what sort of brings you to the Metis Fellowship, it has to capture it has to align with our tracks for that particular cohort. And for cohort 5, we are looking at gender and education. So any leaders that have ideas, they have started something, or they're somewhere along the ideation process of developing something along the lines of gender and education, mental health, supporting learners with disabilities, and caregiver engagement. So if you have an idea around that, if you're working on a solution around that, whether within a big organization or whether it's a startup or just an idea that you have and you'd like to be able to work through it and bring it to life, then Metis is the right place for you. Thank you. I would like us now to, so I know I've talked about the bold idea, but I think we'll get to hear a little bit more about what the bold idea is. And I would like our alumni to share what their bold idea was, sort of what brought them to the Metis Fellowship. And we'll go through that journey and get to hear from the start, when you come in with that idea of yours, how do you go about it and actually make it a reality? Maybe, or at least develop a prototype before you leave the fellowship. Ruth, I'll tap you to go first.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I think for me, because I'm involved a lot in curriculum development, and we are going through our curriculum reforms, and indeed we were in the middle of implementing it, and it was now going to upper primary when I joined Metis Fellowship. One of the things that became a reality in terms of the success of the curriculum reforms was the fact that if we do not, if the teachers are not well trained, because this is a reform, there were paradigm shifts that the teachers needed to undergo. If we do not have a sustainable system in which we can build the capacity of the teachers, then the success of the curriculum will not be, it will not be realized. And I think that was one of the main challenges, is how do you come up with a sustainable system that of continuously building the capacity of teachers, because we also realize that it is not a one-time thing that you will train them today and they are good forever. So what are we going to do to make sure that this is a sustainable, continuous support system that will enable teachers to implement the curriculum well. So my bold idea was to come up with communities of practice that will enable continuous development of teachers to effectively implement the curriculum. So communities of learning, communities of practice, that was what I wanted to do. And that is what I came up to do in Metis. And I think you wanted me to say more. Well, maybe to say slightly more. And one of the things that really helped me in terms.
Maybe I would like to ask Ruth maybe to explain, did you succeed in developing the communities of practice, considering you're coming from the public sector?
I think I was going to, that was what I was asking, whether I can go in. I think I can go on. I think one of the main things that I say that really helped is that when I went, I got mentors. And some of the mentors were not Kenyan. I remember I got mentors from India, and one of the Indian mentors is the one who said that because I thought it's one thing one can go and just begin and start putting schools together, having the communities of practice. But with my interaction with the Indian community that have successful communities of practice or learning in their communities, they said that one of the main things you have to make sure is to ensure that it's well embedded in our frameworks, in our policy documents, and that will ensure that it is embedded in the system. If it is not embedded in the system, once you leave, it will probably die. So I think one of the main successes that we have had so far is that if you look at the policy documents that we have now, like the task force report in which I was a member of, it is now well embedded in our policy documents, meaning that it has to begin. So for me, I think that was a major success, and the way to go now is to actually make sure it's now in policy, and by this year, and therefore I know the communities will be done through policy, and that is a sustainable way of ensuring that they are continuously happening. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ruth, for sharing that. Yeah, because I mean, because one of the core things that you notice even as a leader as you grow through this journey is we all have blind spots, right? There are things that we cannot see regardless of how many years we have probably been doing this. And that's why continuous learning, that's why we actually emphasize on iteration and being able to look back and say, okay, what am I missing? Who can I talk to help me think through this? So thank you very much for sharing that with our audience. Albert, what was your bold idea? Sorry, you're on mute.
All right, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you so much. And so for me, the way I look at it is the core. Sorry?
I would like to request all the panelists to unmute because I'll be locking the mute buttons. So no one will be able to unmute themselves until the Q&A is. So Carol and Ruth, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
All right, so I can go now, yeah. So thank you. So what I was sharing for me is basically very precise, that when I was walking towards my bold idea, which is another thing that I really loved about the Metis Fellowship, by the way, the point of being guided and trained to develop a bold idea, and bold here really meant bold. What is it that you're passionate about? How do you want to achieve it? And who are your target audience and what have you? So I know I was looking at the what if question. And what if here meant, what if every young person could be helped through education to discover their purpose and passions at the earliest possible time? So the idea of getting young people to identify, discover their talent and purpose was very key. And so through Slum Code Hub as an easily accessible, safe space that is targeting young people from low-income regions, I realized that when we talked about the idea of education versus learning, you know, and that was a discussion that became very exciting even during the retreat and beyond, that what do we look at as education, what do we look at as learning, how have the schools set up been, and what other spaces can we have that helps young people to identify themselves and grow in personal development as they move on. So my bold question focusing on young people identifying their purpose and passions was really something that I was very, very grateful to have worked out through the fellowship, whereby I knew that by creating this space and then linking up with collaborators, then we were going to see what is the role of such spaces in helping young people identify gaps in their own personal development, things that are within school and out of school, because education and learning does not happen in a vacuum. And people learn in tired spaces, you know, whereby there's learning at home, there's learning in the public environment and the public space. There is learning in school. There is learning in social gatherings. Learning is all around us, you know. And so for me, that is one thing that became very clear, that many young people miss out on core aspects of their growth. And particularly having gone through the same life myself, then you find that a lot of young people are out of school. Somebody is 19 years, you know, 18 years, and they're like, now is when I want to know what to do. So you've done your Form 4 and you're like, so what do you want to do with yourself? And they're like, I'll figure out. So then what have you been doing in school for 18 years or 19 years if you want to figure it out now? And so that space is one thing that has caused a lot of rafters and the rift within the system. So I was happy that my bold question was able to move in that direction. And up to now, with the kind of like a minimum viable product that we created, that we prototyped, which we'll talk about also maybe at some point, is something that has really helped even with the leaders that you talked about that we have helped to create. So yeah, thank you so much. And that was a very perfect way to be able to build up this solution. Thanks,
Awesome.
Thanks, Naftali.
Thank you, Albert, for sharing that. Yeah, because all of us, all of our audience that will be joining us in the fellowship, of course, you know, they'll come with a bold idea and then they'll go through the process and refine it so that it actually, you know, they're able to develop a solution. Carol, what was your bold idea?
Thank you, Naftali. So when I started the journey, so when we were being taken through the process of coming up with the bold idea, I had, you know, I was thinking big, you know, I was thinking, you know, organization-wise, you know, what do I need to do so that, you know, I can help my organization to move from one point to the other. And, you know, I think that process was, you know, very helpful because of the feedback that I got from my coach, Rebecca, but also the feedback that I got from my peers. And so the bold question that I had started with ended up not being, you know, the bold question that I ended up working on. So I'll share what I worked on. So my organization works with community secondary schools that serves, you know, the neediest students. So we work in Kawangware, Kibera, and Uthiru, and Kangemi. And as we implement, you know, our programs, so we do coaching, school leadership development, because the school leaders by that time were our agents of change. So what we do with the school leaders was supposed to be, you know, the school leaders were supposed to work with their students. But when I was doing that, when we were doing the work, so I'm a coach by profession. One of the issues that kept on bugging us was the absenteeism. If you've worked in community schools, you know that most of our students are in, you know, out of school at least thrice, if not twice a week. So, you know, these great, you know, plans that we had and the great things that we were doing, including coaching and professional development, were not actually, you know, reaching the students because of their absenteeism. And so my bold question was, how might we ensure that students from marginalized communities stay in school? It's as simple as that. And when I came up with this bold, so like I said, for me to get there, I got a lot of feedback. I had to refine, rethink, and then, share again and again. When I came up with this bold question, when I settled on that bold question, I thought I had the solution because I've worked in community schools for years as a coach, and I was like, I think, in my mind, I was like, I think I have solutions to my bold question. And I just remember, my peers telling me to, like, just go. We were given an opportunity to go to the community and talk to our, what do we call them? I call them constituents. But yeah, end users. And, because they are the ones who are affected, they are the experts. And so I went with my bold question, and I was just really humble. I talked to, students. Many times we do not talk to students. We come up with programs and then tell students what to do. I talk to teachers. I talk to school leaders. I talk to parents. And what I got out of that, just made me scratch my head so much, because I was like, I thought I had solutions, but when I talked to my constituents, so at the beginning of, my bold question, I was like, I think if we gave students scholarship, they will stay in school. So I need to go out and fundraise and get scholarship. But, when I was talking to the end users, one of the things that came up is the issue of stakeholder engagement, how to work with the local government, and, just so much out of that. So for me, that was really helpful. We've come up with some programs that student support programs based on what we got. So we have scholarship, but at the same time, my organization also, we had to rethink, what the professional development workshops would look like for school leaders, what the student support, programs would look like. And there's just a lot of change that, I'm willing to share even later. And then the other thing is this began to shift our conversation, organization, wide. So at the beginning of this year, we sat down with my team and we were like, what are we really good at? Because I just think sometimes as educators, we think we can do it all. And especially when you're working in, schools that serve students from marginalized communities, it's like school fee. It's like, we want to do this, we want to do teacher training. So we sat down and we were very reflective and very honest to ourselves. We've worked, Big Picture Learning Kenya has worked with community schools for 3 years. So out of, the 3 years that we've spent in school, what are we really good at? And we my team was just very honest. We noticed that we are very good at student support. And, when we started, we were doing teacher support. I think at some point, we just realized that our hands are tied when it comes to how we can support teachers to implement internship, advisory, and all these on top of everything else that they are asked. So in 2023, Big Picture, we've done a number of things. Again, I'm just selecting, is going to start schools where we can support our students, but also use those schools as model school to support the school leaders, in community schools. So much happened, a lot of conversations, a lot of programs, and, that was how my bold question and my bold idea, ended up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, because you've highlighted like a very key thing, because when we actually go for the retreat, you have to sit down and really think about what you're the problem that you are actually trying to solve. So I'm happy that you've been able to share your perspective and how, through the empathy step now of the Metis way, you're able to talk to your end users and get to actually empathize with them and ask, is what I have in mind actually right for these people, or do I need to reimagine what I'm thinking about and actually put them first, as you said, because they are the experts. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I know you've all touched on some bit of solution that you've developed and some impact. But I'd like to give you a chance, probably maybe expound a little bit more on the solution, a bit of things, and probably share a bit more about the impact that this has had. Yeah, Ruth.
Okay, thank you. I think I went a bit into that. I think I share with what Carol was saying that when we came in, we thought we had the solution. We thought it was something that it's pop and it will happen. But then as we go through the processes, we realize that the planning, I mean, things take step by step, and real thinking goes through it. And my exposure to speaking to at least two of my mentors who are out of the country and have succeeded in this way really helped to contextualize, and having it contextualized in Kenya, because we are a different form of people. I think that really helped. And so when I was in the opportunity of entering some of these task force, we were able to make those recommendations and to make sure that if you look at the task force reports, you find that it is one of the requirements to be implemented in the curriculum reforms. And that is something that is really supportive. And it is something that now we are embedded in policy. So even as we begin it, it is something that is sustainable. So I think one of the things that one learns is that implementing your big idea is a process. It's not an event that, and it really needs time to think through. I liked what Carol said. When we were asked to go to speak to our constituents, it also brings out a lot of information that you probably may have taken for granted. And you probably think, I'm thinking like this, so everybody is thinking the same way, but you realize the diverse things people are thinking on the same issue that you yourself are talking about. So for me, I think the process was good, and the fact that it is now there gives me legality in terms of starting some of these things as a pilot, which is something that we are now planning to do, to see how it can succeed, so that we can make sure that it will be widespread throughout the country. Setting up small communities of practice and linking them to the institute in case of any questions or any feedback or any support that they may require. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Of course, you're part of this family now, and yeah, we'll be learning and hearing more about the progress on that. Because we are all in this together, and we are hoping to see all our solutions come to fruition, whether it's immediately after the fellowship or even 2 to 3 years down the line, because we are working for, systems change. So that definitely takes some time. Albert?
Yeah, so thank you all so much for that amazing sharing. So definitely, yeah, as we come towards system change, I know one key thing is about what solution did we come up with. And as I say that for me, within the Metis way, the idea of making meaning and empathizing, those were the two foundational spaces that began to renew even how I personally think, and so working on those two meant that I understood the problem that was to be tackled, but the empathizing part, which helps you to now go back to the constituents and your beneficiaries and find out what do they want. Yes, you have this sort of idea, but how does it matter to them? How would they want it to be implemented, or what would really mean so much for them if it were done? And I remember coming to talk to some of the young people, and for the first time, I took some sort of like a cards and just gave it out around to them. And I told them, okay, here is the Slum Code Hub. What do you like and what don't you like? And you would be so surprised at some of the things that mattered to them, which to me didn't matter. They were like, can we have drinking water from this source? Can we get this sort of a toilet? And the girls had their own way of what they wanted. And so I was like, so what would be better if it were made different? And they're like, we wish we could have this, we wish we could do this, we wish we could reach this kind of people. And so that helps in creating the entire process in such an amazing way. And so you find that today, in terms of impacts of that, we ended up coming with a program which we called Zuva Muka. And Zuva Muka is literally their own creation as young people, because they say that, Albert, the whole objective of the Slum Code Innovations and Creatives Hub is to rise the sun in us as young people. You know, so Zuva Muka is basically a Shona word which means risen sun. So the program has 3 tracks of training where we talk about personal development, we're looking at IT, and we look at entrepreneurship. And all these are very fundamental, where young people can fit in and they end up redesigning what they want to achieve, even while still in school. And so we look at ages of 19, anything between 16 and 25, around about there. And so for us, that has been really success. I know the COVID issue and gatherings and meetings has brought a lot of challenges, but currently we have a small group that is going on of about 5, you know, and so it has really been coming up well in terms of impact solution, and we will continue to build it up even through the Metis collaborations, people whom we are meeting and finding relevant spaces to attach these young people. They've been having what we call coffee talks. Coffee talks is whereby we've been proudly able to bring in other Metis fellows who have volunteered their 1 or 2 hours to handle some of those sessions, because we are in that space. And so to me, this has really been the way to go. And I believe moving forward, we are going to keep learning, we're going to keep reimagining, and we are going to keep on transforming what we must do in the education space. So thank you so much. And yeah, looking forward to greater days ahead.
Thank you so much, Albert, for sharing. As I said, yeah, I've interacted with some of the young people within your organization, and it's amazing. Like, you know, they can also feel the transformation that is happening at Slum Code. So I look forward to seeing more of that and celebrating that. Carol, any final thoughts on the impact and you know, the solution that you worked on before we start taking questions from our audience?
I think I had shared a lot around, you know, just what we did, yeah. But I'll summarize my learning by saying I've learned the importance of asking, listening, and repeating that. You know, when we start organizations or when we start programs, one of the things that I think we want to see is sustainability of that program. And also we want ownership. And so many times we don't think about, you know, involving our end users from the beginning. Normally we create, you know, programs or projects, and then we invite people to come in. But I've just learned the importance of, you know, involving my constituents from the word go. And I've seen a lot of, you know, shifts in, you know, just how we work. I've seen, you know, ownership and, you know, people just wanting to bring their best self into that learning space because they know they're, you know, respected and they're involved.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our alumni. We are so delighted, and even for us here as a team, we get inspired when we get to hear the stories that you share. You know, because I know as alumni we don't get to probably talk every other week, because you know, people have a lot on their plates. But also through, you know, such a platform, I also get inspired now. And when I wake up tomorrow, even when, you know, some things are not going well, I'm like, you need to do this, because you actually understand why you're doing the work that you do. So thank you so much for sharing. So now we'll go into taking the questions from our audience, so that we can answer all those questions that you have about the fellowship, and and get to learn more from you also. So if you have a question, please raise up your hand. Boniface, could you give us direction on how to do that?
Thank you, Naftali. Thank you so much for the questions that you submitted on the form and the questions that you have asked on the chat. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. There's an icon for raising your hand just below there. And we'll be taking 2 questions at a time, just to keep it going. Yeah, so anyone who has a question, just raise your hand. Before that, there are Viola, we're coming to you. Before that, a few people had asked questions on the chat. So I'm going to combine them. So Tobias and Sharon had the same question about criteria of entry into Metis as a fellow. So there is that question about criteria, just to clarify that. And then Viola, go ahead.
Very much for accepting me to participate on this and being my first time. So I just saw it somewhere on the platform, and I was so excited that since I've been thinking of doing something different in my community, so I said maybe I can join so that I can get a different idea. So I've been participating on community-based organization stuff, and I've been fighting being a survivor of FGM. So I come, of course, from Marakwet, the Marakwet East part, where we still have the rampant FGM, early pregnancy, and low level of education. So being the only girl that I did KCP as the only girl that here. So, and I've been going home, and I said, I think we can change this perspective of going home for FGM every time. And I really need your help. Maybe you can help me think further of saying that for those young girls who are still less than 8 years to 10, who are still young, who have not undergone the cut. So how are we going to take them back and explain to them the real world, to know that even education is important, and I can go with like some of you people to see the place and see what is going on. Maybe you can take different idea about education and teach those girls. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Viola. So we have two questions. I'll take the first one because it's about eligibility to be a Metis Fellow. So if you are a Kenyan leader, education leader, whether you're working in government, whether you're working in a non-profit, whether you're working in a for-profit education institution, in a school, you are eligible to apply for Metis Fellowship. So I know I saw a question also on whether you must have started your own organization. So I think I'll combine that. No, you don't have to have started your own organization. Wherever you are right now, you can come up with a bold idea along the 4 tracks that we talked about, and then develop that within your organization. Because remember, you're trying to solve a particular problem, right? So defining that problem and coming into the fellowship to actually develop a solution for it, whether you are in a non-profit or whether it's your own company, or or whether it's a school institution or any other organization where you are, then it's okay. It's okay, and you're eligible to become a Metis Fellow. So we look for 4 things in our leaders. One is the growth mindset. I think from even listening to our alumni share, one of the things that they had to actually do is challenge themselves and realize that they do not have all the answers, right? So we want to have people that know that they do not have all the answers, and they're ready to listen to their end users and actually design with them, and not just design solutions for them and then present that to them. We also look for leadership, right? So you have a track record of leadership, and yeah, it's not anchored on age. So it's not like we are saying you must have 20 years of leadership experience, because experience can be shown. History of leadership can be shown in so many ways, because if you're a leader, then you have contributed in one way or the other within your community. So it just, finding that story that will bring out, your leadership experience and show us that you're actually a leader who is committed to transformation of your community. And then we look for innovation. So yeah, even from listening to our alumni, yes, we want people that want to solve big problems. We feel like there's no problem that is too big for us, because the solutions are within us. And the 4th one is collaboration. Collaboration is a huge part of what we do, because we want to build a community that is supportive And once you join Metis, we say you've become part of a long life family, right? So we want you to be able to collaborate with others. We'd like you to be able to, go to Albert and say, I would like to learn ABCD from you. Go to Kara and say, I would like to learn ABCD from you. So collaboration is a big part of that. So those are some of the things that those are the 4 things that we actually look for in our leaders. I don't know whether, I think that, that actually covers it. That covers it. Yeah. I know maybe we also had some questions on funding and all that, but that's something we'll talk about later, but that is not a key consideration for us. If you have those 4 and you're Kenyan, then you do qualify for our program. We had a question from, was it Paula? So probably, I think I'll tap you, Carol, just to talk probably even from a design point of view, or even share your experience on how she might maybe be able to approach these, and probably how she could, how coming into Metis might help her address some of the issues she has highlighted.
Yeah. I was just listening to Viola and I'm like, she has a lot of courage. And I remember one of the things that we discussed during, our fellowship, that the word courage also holds rage. So, in your community, what is that one thing or 2 things that brings rage? It's from that, that you begin doing something. So I'll say, you are at the right place. Please apply, because when you join Metis, you will find that you're not alone. When I was joining Metis, I thought, I'm struggling with ABCD, I'm alone, But when I got into the fellowship and started interacting with my fellow, leaders, I was like, I got to realize that I wasn't alone. And that was really cathartic. That was something that I really needed. And then other than that, when you join the fellowship, you also get to learn from what other people are doing. So during the fellowship, even when I was working on my bold idea, I would sit down with, I think we had Janet, and we had, Eve, who was working with a special needs program, and I would just listen to what they were doing. They would share. So people are very generous with sharing ideas, and I'm sure, even the issue of FGM, will come up. If you're not going to find someone who is working around that, I'm sure you'll get ideas from, our fellow leaders and teachers. So I think the first thing is to apply. You'll find that you're not alone. In there, you'll get solutions.
Thank you, Carol. Yes, don't be afraid to solve the biggest problems, right? We are courageous and we want to go out and do that. Boniface, I think you can take another question.
Yeah, so we have Paul and then Alex. Paul, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Naftali has really been elaborate about issues, about issues, because this is the first time I'm getting into this thing, but I believe this is where I belong. So issues about collaboration and everything, I don't know how we can start linking as fast as possible, because from the first chat, I told you that I'm not in the country, but I will be coming. I'm in Dar es Salaam at the Institute of Education Development, Aga Khan. But it's because of this work that I got this chance. So I'm just coming back, and I feel like we should start collaborating as early as possible, so that at least I just want to feel this thing. Thank you very much.
Boniface, you're taking another question.
Yeah, we have Alice. Alice, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. And also I'd like to appreciate the good presentation. And I truly appreciate. I have 3 questions and I'll go very fast. 1, do you work with technical schools? Number 2, do you charge for your trainings? And if you do, how much? And then I would also like to know, the resources. You said that you also support the leaders with resources. What kind of resources do you support? Thank you so much.
After.
Okay, thank you. So I'll start with Paul's question, and then our alumni will be able to talk about the other bits. So Paul, if you're outside the country, and so I don't know whether you have an innovation already in place or whether you intend to come up with a bold idea within the organization where you are currently.
Not yet, but I think I'll get it there.
Awesome, awesome. Because one of our core requirements is that everyone must be able to attend the retreat in person.
Yes.
So, because right now what we are doing is we are doing a hybrid model where we do 2 sessions. So the retreat and the graduation are in person, but the monthly sessions now we've taken them virtually where you learn. Sometimes we give you videos to watch, and then we meet once every month, as leaders via Zoom, and then we share what we've been working on and get feedback from our group. So if you're able to attend the retreat and be able to commit the required time, then definitely please do apply. Don't lock yourself out because of that. If your solution is based here in Kenya and you're able to meet all the requirements, then definitely do apply.
Thank you.
The 3 questions now from sorry, I forgot her name. Too bad.
Alice.
Alice.
Sorry, yeah.
All the way from Rarieda.
Awesome. So do we work with technical schools? Ruth, I would like to direct that to you.
I think for us, it's about education. It's about different educationists coming together to develop the youth in our country. And the technical schools should not be left out. They are part of the education system of the country. So indeed, they are part of the Metis, I think, focus, because it's about developing our youth, developing our children. Yeah.
So yes, just to add on that, yes, we take everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're in a technical institution, whether you're in a university, so long as you meet the criteria, you have a bold idea, because we also would like you to go actually out and develop a bold idea that probably can now start from your institution and be adopted in other technical institutions across the country. That's what we are working for. So yes, we do that. The second question was on funding. I think I'll take this one. So for the Metis Fellowship, the capped cost is at 300,000 Kenyan shillings, but we offer scholarships of up to 260,000, of course, based on our criteria. So we'll be able to share more on the criteria once you get admitted into the fellowship, and but our selection process is need-blind. That's one thing I can tell you for sure. So we encourage all leaders to apply, regardless of where they're coming from or the financial muscles that they have, because if you are a great leader, then we believe we'll find a way to make it happen. So we do offer scholarships of up to 260,000 towards the cost of the fellowship. On resources, Albert or Carol can take one of these. Maybe you could highlight 2 to 3 resources that you got from the fellowship.
I can share.
Okay.
I can share, and then Albert can also share. So I think earlier we had talked about the opportunities that we had. So you have an opportunity to work with a coach, a very professional coach. You also have a team of professionals around you. So in your class, you will have different educators that you can share, ideas with. You can, talk about your bold ideas. You can, visit and see what they are doing. But you also have, within the Metis Fellowship, we have a number of alumni. So we have a big group there that is also a resource. And then there's also, the opportunities to work with mentors. So when I was developing my bold idea, when I was working on my bold idea, I got to work with one mentor, but I had like more than 6 mentors at my disposal. Like Ruth mentioned, some of them live in Kenya, some of them, are doing some innovative work in India and, across the world. Yeah, that's what I will talk about with regards to resources.
Thank you. Albert?
Yeah, thanks again. I know I won't add so much because literally what Ruth has shared is the pool that is there. But one thing that I can tell anybody that resources sometimes become almost relative, because it all depends on what do you need, what do you want to achieve. One person might meet the same person and they talk completely different stories. But another person comes and meets that very person and the whole world is turned upside down. So yes, mentorship and coaching is one very key resource that you get. Number 2 is the way the Metis team works with you. There is no judgment, there is no limitations. It's about you and your bold idea. How do we start it off? How do we achieve it? So the idea that you have alumni and mentors and a support group that works with you until you achieve what you want to achieve is, to me, something that is very, very key. And then also the issues of just connecting with online resources. I found Metis having a very good online resource with material and content that helps you to constantly review, reevaluate, and learn about your process. So if there's anything that you miss out, you simply log in onto your learning module, and you are able to get that. So yes, this is something that is going to help you become the better version of yourself. And finally, there is the what we call the manifesto. The Metis manifesto is one thing that you're going to be part of. You can always have it. So like for me, I know this year I picked one line about do even harder things. In 2021, I am doing harder things. So that manifesto, which you will memorize and really have part of it, can also help you do a lot of stuff. So yes, welcome all, and the resources are immense.
Okay. Thank you, Albert and Carol.
Okay, so we have Jocelyn Kawira, and then we will have Jeremiah Kotaya. So Jocelyn, go ahead. Jocelyn.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jocelyn, and my question was one, but there's another question I want to ask before I ask the one. It has come up as I was listening. Someone was asking whether you must be from technical institution for you to apply. Okay, I'm also asking that because I teach in a technical institution, but I'm not in this program because of the technical institution. So maybe you can clarify that. Is it that you are working in a technical institution, or you are, I mean, whatever you are doing is in a technical institution? Okay, let me go to my question. My question was, what is your definition of learning disability? Because what I do, according to my definition, it is a learning disability, but not born with disability, but more of an acquired disability. Why I say that is because I noted that some students who will do so well in primary exam, the KCPE, like the one which was released today here in Kenya, when they join high school, their performance goes down because of 2-3 reasons. Some of them were the best in their primary schools. So when they join these national schools and extra county schools, they go there and the teachers forget them in the big cloud. So they somehow feel affected, their self-esteem, and they feel like teachers are not falling on them so closely. And that makes them go down. To me, that's a definition of a learning disability. And that is why I picked to work with them. So basically, in my program, I go to schools and I look for students who went there with very good marks, but they are getting D's and E's. And I've been working with them. And when I see these students make it to get a grade that can take them to the university, I feel excited. Others, the disability is because of the challenges they go through. A student may go through a challenge somewhere along their education, and by the time they go back to school, they find they have lost a lot. As they deal with the challenge, maybe it was grief, it was being sent home because of school fees. As they deal with that, the gap which is there in the academics makes them remain down there, and they don't pick up. And because teachers have the rest of the cloud to move with, they forget these people. So I work with that definition of a disability. So I wanted to find out, is that a definition as per your program? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
We have Jeremiah.
Boniface, we can take another question.
Jeremiah. Kutanya. Jeremiah. Okay. We have Mary Kigoro. You had raised your hand. Okay. Dr. Purity?
Yes, I did. And then I posted my questions in the chat box. I had asked how long it was. I think that was the answer, like 6 months program.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, Baruch.
Baruch Moel.
Hello.
Thank you. My name is Baruch Moel. I'm a special needs teacher still working in Nairobi. I've heard about your program and the way forward resources which are helping us. I've heard about
Baruch, we have
sorry, Moel,
hearing you.
we can't hear you. Could you kindly type your question in the chat box?
Period, like COVID-19 pandemic.
Sorry, we didn't hear that
you getting
question. Me? No. Could you kindly type it and then?
Okay, let me type it.
Yeah, please do. I think your internet is a bit unstable.
You can allow me to ask the question with purity?
Yes, Dr. Purity, yes.
Yes, first let me appreciate this forum. It's quite informative, very educative, and thank you for all the questions that have been answered, because some of my questions have been answered, but seeking further clarification on the duration of the program. I could see 6 months, but not quite clear on what durations is it, once a month, or how many times a month, how many times a week. I know you talked about sending material for us to read, and then a meeting, and then you also talked about a retreat. So you could kindly clarify how often, where, and how. And then how many people do you admit into the program at a time? You are talking of the 50 cohort. So how many people do you admit at a time, so that we know if you qualify and when you can join? Thank you very much. I hope I was clear.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll take care of those and then take some more questions. So we had a question from Kawira about technical institution. Ruth, I still tap you to talk about this, because I believe the question was around, must they have an idea that is connected to the institution, or Can they have like an idea that is probably outside and then come and work on that and develop that?
Okay, thank you very much. That's Jocelyn. I think, yes, I think Metis is about your passion, and it's about making impact that promotes learning. So whether it is in your institution or it's in your community, as long as it's a program that you want to support and that you're passionate about, like when I listen to you, I've heard you are very passionate about those learners. So it's about your passion and how you can impact. So it does not have to be that you have to implement it in your institution, but if you can, it is also okay. You can actually do that. So you asked a question about how do we define disability, but if you look at the education system, and especially now, I can speak confidently in CBCs because some of the challenges that you have mentioned and you have seen are the same things that came out in the needs assessment report that we did on the same, even in the summative evaluation of the 844. So if you find that the way to go now, and when we say we have a mission statement of nurturing every learner's potential, the key word is every learner, because every learner can do something. So if you look at the CBC, when we talk about disability, as a person who has any learning disability is any child that has anything that hinders them from learning. It doesn't have to be physical disabilities like blindness or hearing impairment, but is anything that hinders learning is something that we call learning. That child has learning disability. It may be the social context. When we talk about inclusivity, it means that no child should be left out because of who they are and because of the experiences they have gone through, because of their economic status or their religious statement. It's about what is hindering that child to learn, and that is what we want to investigate and make sure that we address in order to ensure that every child learns. So I think you have a very nice, passionate thing to think about, and I think it would be a very interesting thing to do. Yeah,
thank you, Ruth. And just to add on that, remember we started by saying that we sent our end users. Okay, so if you have this bold idea that you feel, you can get started with, and then probably roll out across our schools, then that would be a great thing to see happen, because you're trying to work on something that centers the learners. And as Ruth shared with us, so the government is doing its part, right? But we cannot sit aside and say we'll wait for the government to provide the solutions, right? We have one of our fellows actually who from last cohort. So he saw there was an issue with how we, the first language that we use for learning, and he went and developed something, an app actually that students could use to translate from their mother tongue to English, so that they're able to make that transition without losing any learning time that they could have lost because of the language barrier, right? And right now, he shared with me a couple of weeks ago, he has already gotten 3 languages certified by KICD. So yeah, so it's people developing solutions and actually rolling them out. So if you have that idea, please do apply to the fellowship, and yeah, join other leaders and make it happen, bring it to life. Dr. Purity, I think you wanted that clarification on the timelines. I'll take that one. So as I said, we start the fellowship with a retreat. So for this one, we'll expect you to commit 3 days, 3 full days, a whole weekend, and be able to attend the retreat in person. Of course, we know because of the COVID situation, we're observing whether you might have to push it ahead a little bit, or how that happens as we observe how things develop across the country. But that is a key thing for us, because without that retreat, leaders are not able to form the connections that they do. So that is a must. So that we'll have to commit a weekend. And then after that, we'll expect you to commit 3 hours for a Zoom call every month, every second Friday of every month, because we'll have to convene together and share what we've been working on for the last 1 month. But also now within this month, you'll have videos to watch. you'll have materials to read and some assignment to do, all right? So how you divide that time is, it's up to you. So if you decide to say, I'll be committing 2 hours or 3 hours every week to go through this material before we meet with our group, that's entirely up to you. But for us, of course, the only thing we do expect for you to be there is that second week, that second Friday of every month, we expect you to be on that Zoom call with the rest of the leaders within your cohort. So that will happen every month, every second Friday of every month. And then at the end, it's a graduation. We're also reimagining that to sort of make it bigger and be able to celebrate not only leaders that are in that particular cohort, but also all our leaders and celebrate the amazing work that they're doing. So for that one also, it will be in person and you'll be expected to attend that. So that's like half a day's event. And yeah, after that, you join the alumni community and you continue being part of that community, supporting other leaders that come after you, and making sure that this family grows. So we actually say the completion of the fellowship is just one milestone. And yeah, probably our alumni can speak to that better than I can, because we view it as a milestone. It's not the end of a journey because you're still on this journey with everyone else. So that's how our timelines are organized. I hope that has clarified everything. Yeah.
Okay. So Baruch, your question has been answered by Rebecca on the chat. So check that out. So Jeremiah Kutanya.
Hello everyone. This is Jeremiah Kutanya. I work for a community-based organization called PICO. PICO stands for Pastoralist Integrated Concerns. We work at Magadi, Kajiado County, and we try to reach the time loss, like to recover time loss as a result of the long holiday due to COVID, unprecedented holiday due to COVID. And majorly, we focus on the lower class, the middle classes, that is grade 3 to 5, and put them under a program called Accelerated Learning Program, where we try to catch up the weak learners in course to catch up with the rest. This is as a result of us being involved for a long time in advocacy against some form of gender-based violence like female genital mutilation, which is very rampant in the Maasai community that we work at. And so we thought it is education which can help some things, because if somebody is learned, is able to know their right, is able to really understand even the benefit for education. So what we do is during the holiday, like now, we organize the community and also the local leaders. We organize for what we call home-based learning, where we group learners from maybe 3 to 4 manyatas, and organize for a learning center where they can learn together for around half a day, normally 4 to 6 hours a day. So this is basically to try to make the learners catch up with the rest, and also to recover the time loss. So that's what we do, and we also do advocacy on FGM.
Hi, Jeremiah. Okay.
Yes. Sorry?
We were losing you a bit. We were losing you a little bit.
Okay, am I back now?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so thank you. Just to finalize, we also do advocacy against FGM and other forms of the retrogressive cultural practices, which really affects education, especially in the pastoralist setup. So, and we do that through, campaigns back to schools, and also supporting learners in school to make them be fully involved in school. So, and we use volunteers, community volunteers. Some are trained teachers, some are just, form for leavers, but willing to give back to the community. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what we do. And if we can also be qualified or we meet the minimum threshold to apply for the Metis fellowship program. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take another question, the last one actually.
Anthony Kogi.
Thank you to the Metis team for organizing this. I noticed that there is five or four categories that you guys were looking at for eligibility for application for the fellowship. The reason I ask is some of the ideas that possibly we might have or I might have are not centered towards maybe gender balance, or it's more tech-based, but education, it's more ed tech based, and I want to know if that's still okay to apply, or do I just pass on it? And the reason is I've over the past maybe 5 years, I've been heavily engaged in education technology and worked across a broad spectrum of tech and education in different countries across Africa. And the reason that I'm sort of now back to Kenya to focus on this is I was just looking at some data put out last week, where there's a DFID funded project that was happening in Kenya across 4 counties, and out of maybe 900 students that they sampled, about 53% of them exhibited declines in their maths age. So it shows you how, especially the young learners, which is what we're trying to focus on, building this product, is how do we, because of their core competence, or how much knowledge that they've picked up since they're very young, how do you empower these kids now that they've been at home for almost a year and now they've just gone on holidays? So I just generally wanted to know, is it really the 5 sort of topics that you base the fellowship on? Do we have to stick to that, or can someone still apply and see, possibly you could get knowledge out of the rest of the team, as you guys have said?
Okay, thank you, Anthony.
Actually, just one quick one, last one. There's a question on incomplete application form, how to retrieve incomplete form. So either you or Nzivo can answer that.
Okay, thank you. So we had a question from Jeremiah, sorry. So he asked, he gave us like the experience of the work that he's doing, and he asked whether he qualifies or whether he meets the threshold. Albert, how would you like to answer that? Albert?
Yeah, definitely. I liked Mr. Koge's approach to, yeah. Can you hear me?
You're breaking a bit.
Hello.
So maybe.
Hello.
Hey, Albert. Sorry, I think you're having challenges with your.
All right. Sorry, if you can't hear me well, then I don't know what the problem is. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi.
So you were saying? Okay, I think we lost. You again.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
It's okay.
Maybe I have a challenge with that.
It's okay, Albert. I think we
It's
can
a
have
bit of connection problem.
Ruth or Caro, check that.
Okay, I listened to, is it Jeremiah? And he's talked about accelerated learning. And I think indeed, because of COVID, and indeed there was a lot of learning loss because children were not, one of the things children learn is through repeating things. And when that opportunity was not given, there's what we call learning loss. So I think the program he has is very good. and very interesting. And indeed, it is going to fulfill a gap that is there in terms of what children occupy themselves with during their long holidays. So for me, I think it's a good program. And I think probably what he needs to really think through is what does he really want in terms of his bold question to improve that. But I think it does meet the threshold in terms of improving learning and education, especially at the community level. So for me, I think he's doing a great job. I was excited to hear that there's such a program in place, and I think it's something that he can build upon. And through the Metis program, is something that he can learn from and look for strategies that can enable him to promote that program in itself. So for me, I think that program qualifies. Yeah.
Thank you. Just to expound a little bit more on Anthony's question. So you are asking whether we are strictly recruiting along those 4 tracks. So to make sure that you get the most out of this program, of course, we want you to be able to, sort of have other leaders that are working within aligned work, So for instance, for you, if you're a tech person, you could be using technology to develop a solution to probably address, some issues in gender education. A solution to mental health, something that relies on technology. So it's more of looking at your strengths and probably what you can build that is aligned, or whether it's aligned to the tracks that we recruit. We are recruiting along, because also we want you to gain the most from this experience, and we don't want you to feel lost or like you're alone, because then we'll have lost the purpose of why we do the fellowship. So I would advise that you take some time and think about it, because we would really like for you to fit into one of those. And if you don't, for this cohort, then I would say it's okay. Every cohort has different tracks, and we have had people that couldn't qualify for a cohort because they were not in the right track, reapply for the next one, and join the fellowship. So that would be my take on that, or my advice. So there was a question about incomplete applications. So when you click on the application page, or when you send to the application form, please make sure that if you've started the application, you go to the bottom of the page and save your progress. So for instance, let's say you do 2 pages today, make sure you do save that. And after you save, an email will be sent to you, right? So this process is automatic. So the moment you click save and continue later, an email will be sent to your inbox with a link to where that particular instance of your application has been saved. And then you can be able to use that link to access your application and continue from there. You don't have to go back and start another instance, or start from the beginning. So please make sure when you save your application, you check your email, check your inbox, make sure that you've gotten that email, because you're supposed to get that email with a link to where your incomplete application has been saved. And then you can go back later when you have some time and continue with the application. All right. Thank you, everyone. So before, we are 4 minutes over time, I'll give our alumni hosts 30 seconds to just share their final remarks as we close. And I would also like to have one member of the audience. So whoever will be first to raise their hand, Boniface, give them a chance to also give us their their remarks. 30 seconds. Ruth?
Okay, for me, I'd like to welcome this cohort 5. I want to tell you it's an exciting experience, and I want to say that you will learn something, and it will really help you in whatever you want to do. It's an experience to happen. It is fun, it is interactive, and it is an experiential learning that one goes through that helps them build education in Kenya. So karibuni sana.
Thank you. Carol?
So mine is also to just welcome you and just encourage you that I think you've taken a bold step already. And, this is your tribe. So, if you've not applied yet, please apply. We want to have you. And like, one of our colleagues said earlier, we can do these hard things together. So even the things that you're talking about, the things you're worried about, you know, if we come together and work together, they won't be as hard. That's what I've learned. Yeah, karibuni sana.
Thank you, Carol. Albert?
Oh, yeah. So good evening again. I hope you can hear me now. I had a small technical issue with my laptop, so I'm using the phone. You can hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, great. So from me also is just to really appreciate for that opportunity that we get to connect with different, thank you. So I was saying that for me, it's a very good opportunity to be able to share with like-minded people. And like I said, you know, everybody who's coming on board, this is definitely the way to go. Nothing works better than just sharing ideas, connecting on purpose, and being able to co-create together. So Metis Fellowship will help you do a lot of that. Obviously, challenges will never cease to exist, but that is why we reimagine, we reshape, and we make life better for everybody else. So I appreciated everything, and I'm looking forward to interact even further with your solutions and with the ideas that we are going to co-create. Bravo on this step.
Thank you. Boniface, do you have for me from the audience?
Jocelyn Kawera.
Okay, Jocelyn, you have your 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you so much. Mine was just to say thank you so much. I've been in this education. I started my teaching career back in 1996. And I think today I can say I've met people who are thinking the way I think. I've been teaching mathematics and chemistry, and I've been disturbed so much by the performance of students who lose their vision, who lose their destiny. So today, I'm just so glad. I feel like I have now hit the nail. I've been working, I go to schools, principals will down to what I'm telling them, others will buy my idea, and those who have bought my idea have sold me. I've been able to cover around 6 counties so far. And today I'm so happy to meet people who think like me. Thank you so much, and may God bless you. Long live Metis.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. So Jocelyn and everyone else, please do go complete those applications. We are evaluating them on rolling basis, and we'll have the first decision by 15th of May. Yeah, but don't think it's a lot of time. So please go complete those applications. We are looking forward to reading them. And yeah, welcoming you to the next cohort of the Metis Fellowship. Thank you, everyone. You've been amazing. If we've not been able to answer your question, I'll write a follow-up email, and also feel free to email us at info@metiscollective.org. Thank you so much.